Before we begin today's show, I wanted to let everyone know that I have a son and I have a daughter. My daughter is 3 years old and my son is 1.5. And my mother bought them shoes today. I'm going to describe both shoes. This is the pair of shoes my mother got for my daughter. The toe tip and vamp are covered in sequins. The tongue is a pink, sparkly deal. The upper and inside walls are silver sparkles with hearts, like vinyl hearts put in there. The midsole and feather edge around the side are white with pink line. And on the laces, it's Velcro, which are also, the Velcro straps are also silver sparkles and a big pink bow. And not only that is when she walks, the front of it has red, blue, and white lights that light up on the front in those sequins. The shoes she got for my son can best be described as brown.
Yep.
This is the Anime Shoshin. Are you ready?
And so when we talk about, in this episode, we're going to be talking about how women are portrayed in anime. Know that I have a struggle with my own daughter because we dress little girls like dolls and we dress little boys like little men. And I'm constantly struggling against this. I tell my friends and family to buy my daughter things that my wife would wear. And my wife is a rather conservative dresser. It's very difficult because I'm prudish for me to find swimwear for my daughter at such a young age because I don't think she should be showing parts of her body that don't belong in the public eye at this age. Mm-hmm. So as we go through this show and you want to call me names because of the things I say, know that I am steeped in this struggle of how we treat men and women and girls and boys. So with that, I just wanted to get that out of the way and say that. Blake, let's start the show.
Well done. Very well done. I especially liked, did you look up the names of the parts of the shoes?
No, I just knew them off the top of my head.
Sorry, I just had to.
No, I don't have a diagram up right on my computer screen here.
I was like, that was a very professional description of the shoes. And, obviously, there's a smart way to do it was to have that up so that you could name the different parts. But I think it added an extra layer to what you were talking about as you were going through and giving the, Latin names for each component of the shoe. That was pretty sweet. I like that. I like that a lot. Hey team, welcome to Anime Shoshin. My name is Blake and this is Merve.
Hello.
And on today's episode, we are going to talk about how ladies are portrayed in the animes.
Every animes.
Yeah, controversial topic, and I'm really hoping, I'm hoping for hate listens. Mm-hmm. What bad press? No bad press. No, good grief, I'm tongue-tied.
No press is bad press.
Yeah, that one. That's what I'm hoping for. I want people to be like, God, I'm so angry.
Yeah, so if you are already angry,
yeah, you're in the right place.
Type in the contents below.
Yeah, let us know how angry you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Merve and I know myself.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to talk about this from any type of really ideological lens.
No.
We're going to talk about this from reason and common sense. Mm-hmm. And I think that if a lot of people listen to this, they would not like that because there is a lack of reason and common sense.
That is very true.
In the world today. But anyway, I digress. So the way we're going to structure today's episode is a little bit different. If you take the diss track and our favorite things out of an episode, we're going to kind of go through it in that format, talk about things we like about how the ladies are portrayed in anime, how women are portrayed in anime, females are portrayed in anime, whatever word you want to use, whatever one's closest to your heart, we're going to be talking about it back and forth, what we don't like about it, what we do like about it. So I just spent a couple minutes talking. Merv, would you like to start with something that you like?
I'm going to do a writer thing first.
Okay.
Just a small writer thing, because I've talked before about what writers do to make a character likable. So I'm just going to give a quick list of some things characters do that make a character unlikable. So likable characters are funny, or they're very good at something, or they have a lot of agency. And one that doesn't get talked about a lot is they are attractive. These are all things you can do to make a character likable. That doesn't mean an unattractive character is unlikable automatically, but human psychology is such that we like attractive people, much to my chagrin, better than we like unattractive people. So, what are some things that make a non-successful character? I don't want to say a bad character, but an unsuccessful character. If you're watching some show and you just find yourself not relating to a character or not caring what the character does, here are some things that could be the reason. And these might come up later as well. The first one is just being a victim. A character that one bad thing happens to, then another bad thing happens to, and another bad thing happens to, and they just, woe is me. And the writer is trying to garner sympathy for a character, but if multiple bad things happen or too many bad things happen, it feels unrealistic to us, and we just go, screw it. And sometimes we start to like seeing the bad things happen to the character. Good. One of the other things is that they have no agency. This kind of goes hand in hand with that. This is where things are just happening to them and they don't have any control over what's happening. So they don't make any decisions. They're following along someone else, or they're just reacting. That can make a character unlikable. And the third one is that they act according to the plot instead of character psychology. We don't see any reason why they do it, but they're just doing it because the plot demands it. That will immediately make people dislike characters. And the last one is kind of the opposite of the victim. They're too perfect. They have no flaws.
What'd you do?
I bypassed the compressor.
Huh.
Characters with no flaws are exceedingly boring because they're completely unrelatable. A lot of people have a lot of flaws. And if a character has no flaws and everything comes easy to them, we start to root against that character because we can't relate to them. And we like an underdog. We don't like an upper dog, which is a term I just coined.
Yeah, that's good. And I like that. And I think the important part is where you ended, because often when a character has no flaws, it moves from being, oh, I don't care, or they're not relatable, to I actively dislike this character. Like I don't like them. I have animosity towards them. So yeah,
you're rooting for them to fail at something because you want them to be human.
Right. Or just not 100 times more lucky in everything than I am, I guess would be the other way to say that. Yeah. All right.
So that's just kind of some framework there, and how we can look at some of these characters and some of these things and why they strike us in a certain way. But yeah, go ahead. Give us something that you like.
All right. I'm going to take the obvious one then. So to me, the best thing about how female characters are portrayed in anime is that femininity is allowed and even encouraged. Waifu is real. That's okay. No waifus allowed here, but yet Pornhub is the 17th most visited website on the internet, just below Netflix.
Never heard of it. What is it called?
Pornhub.
Oh.
Yep.
Are we on that? Can you find us on that?
No. And if you could, that would be to use the modern term problematic. The point is, in anime, I love that females are allowed to be beautiful. Women are allowed to be beautiful. They're allowed to act feminine and all of that kind of stuff. The reason I bring up the fact that that's not allowed here anymore is because it's a contradiction in terms with the fact that the biggest porn website is so popular.
Right.
You see what I'm saying here? So it's like a contradiction in terms. It's like we're not allowed to make females attractive, yet that it's what people still want regardless of what they say on the internet. So that's something I definitely like about how females are portrayed, how the ladies are portrayed in the animes.
Yeah, and I like that too. And here's one. I did a little kind of poll on Twitter, just a tweet, like, who's your favorite female anime character? And I got quite a few of them. And then I added some of my own. And some of these are characters I wasn't familiar with, so I had to look them up and watch some stuff. And One of them that came up a couple times is Ezra Scarlet from Fairy Tail. Oh, also follow us on Twitter at Anime Shoshin Pod. They describe her here as a slender, voluptuous figure, which is to me an oxymoron, but she's obviously
36, 24, 36. Haha, only if she's 5'3". Sir Mix-a-Lot.
but she is a very feminine character, but also her personality is like strict and severe as opposed to like giddy or kind of friendly or nurturing. Has kind of an anger and is a little insecure when she's unable to protect those near to her. So the protective instinct, which we would normally associate with masculinity, but yet she has long hair, she is voluptuous, she wears a dress under her armor, uses a sword, all those sorts of things. So she's allowed to be feminine, mostly in appearance, and some personality things, but mostly she has masculine traits in her personality, which is cool.
Yeah, and I think that's an important distinction because and I tried to read some of the articles that were hating on how that the females are portrayed in the animes, and
we'll get into that because I watched a couple videos and they literally gave me a headache.
Yeah, and I went to the last one I went to was a bait and switch, which made me smile. It was like,
nice,
this is why it's so terrible in the title, and then you start reading it and it just destroys all of those arguments, but which I appreciated very much.
Note that down for a title for our podcast episode.
But even though the point is, even though there's tropes, and this is kind of what you're talking about, there really is no mold. And you can find, like we always say, an anime for anyone, no matter what your tastes are, no matter what type of characters you like. So a couple examples I wrote down is, Akame, who's Molly Searcy, who does our transition lives. So I'm very partial to that anime, but
You are, obviously.
Very strong female lead, very stoic, is one of those characters that says a lot with few words, which I love, and is probably my favorite female anime character. In fact, it's not that I like Akame more because Molly helped us with our transition lines. It's because I liked Akame so much that we tried to get Molly for the transition line. So it's the opposite of what you would think and goes totally against what quote unquote waifu is, or what most people think of when they hear the term waifu. There's another one called the Saga of Tanya of Evil, and basically it's like a Hitler's Germany analog, and the main character is a magical sorcerer, evil but yet good female lead in that analog of a Hitler's German army. So it's pretty crazy, it's pretty nuts, but completely goes against, what the haters would think of when it comes to how women are portrayed or how girls or how females are portrayed in anime. But yet this character has huge blue eyes, the biggest eyelashes of any anime character ever, completely adorable, probably like 4 foot tall, right? So it's this contradiction in terms related to what you were saying. And another reason why I love it, because it can go against every convention in that way. What's something you don't like about how the ladies are portrayed in the animes?
One of my least favorite kind of cringy things that just kept kind of getting on my nerves was we recently watched Shield Hero and his harem, which if you watch that video, I talked about, like, I don't love the harem setup of the one male and a bunch of females, mostly because I think from a character and a plot perspective, it really limits what you can do by limiting the types of characters that you're allowed to have. But that they all called him master, even though he first bought them as slaves, it's still, and then even after he freed them, they kept calling him master. It's kind of a weird thing because you could have a big character moment where they start calling him by his name, or like if just one of them calls him master and he doesn't like it, it can be humorous or whatever, but they're all kind of calling him master and they continue to call him master instead of calling him by his name. What's the female, the raccoon girl?
Raftalia.
Even though she's a higher level and more powerful, especially at fighting combat, like hand-to-hand combat or sword to shield combat, she is more powerful and still calls him master. It's just a little cringy for me every time.
Yeah, I could see that. I also was thinking about that point a lot before we did this. And I think no matter how hard we try not to be influenced by how words, terms, tropes are used in our culture, I think we can still find ourselves putting those on entertainment that comes from other cultures. What do I mean by this? So we hear master and we think kind of the negative connotation of the word, right? We think old American South,
Yeah.
plantations, that
Yeah.
kind of thing, right?
That's very fair.
And I think there, it's not that. It's a term used to describe someone who is in charge, an expert at something, that type of thing.
More like sensei or teacher, mentor.
Yes, exactly that. Yep.
I could buy that. I
Yep.
could buy that, and maybe it'd be less. I mean, it's going to be impossible to come to this with anything but what we come to it
Yeah.
with.
Yep. Of course. Of course.
But yeah, that makes more sense to me, except that they were literally using the word
crest.
slave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that
like-
makes it worse, right? But the way if you look at the attitude of the way they say it, I think it lends itself more towards.
Yeah, they say it
sensei.
in like a loving way, or like
an
a-
endearing way, or
respectful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I do have a couple of similar things to latch onto that I don't like. So one, the harem thing I don't mind as much as you do, but I do wish, because there is such a thing as a reverse harem. That is the thing in anime, a reverse harem. So instead of one boy and a bunch of girls, it's one girl and a bunch of boys. And I would like to see an anime, a reverse harem anime, make it into the zeitgeist. So I wish some anime creators would make a reverse harem anime story that is compelling to a wider audience, right? Because often what happens is, the big shonens, the demon slayers, the shield heroes, they're often the male-led anime in that way. And I would like to see that not always be the case, because then I think a lot of people wouldn't feel a certain type of way about anime because they feel like, oh, well, it's always this way, because that's all that kind of bubbles up to the top. So I just love a really talented anime manga writer to take a crack at making a mass appeal reverse harem anime. And if one exists and someone knows of it and I haven't heard of it for some crazy reason, let us know. But I don't believe there's a mass market appeal reverse harem anime out there. The second point I want to make about this, I was watching an anime called The World's Finest Assassin Gets Reincarnated. These names. The world's finest assassin gets reincarnated in another world as an aristocrat. Good grief, I got it out.
Wow.
And during watching this anime, I finally got to a point where the harem telling the hero how amazing he is every 5 seconds started to get supremely annoying to me. So even me, who kind of digs the harem thing, it's only to a point, because it's not even so much for me the harem as it is how the characters interact with the harem. And there are some where it's just obvious it's designed to make, I don't know, men, boys, whatever, feel a certain way, because the male lead's always getting just, oh, you're the best, you're the strongest, you're the smartest. Can I lick your feet? You're the best, you're the smartest, you're the strongest. And I don't know what that's about, but in this particular anime, it got to me.
And that's one of the things a lot of people over here complain about happens in the female-led stories, is that they are constantly being told how great they are. The audience is being told how great they are. And I never like a character to tell me another character is great. I want to see it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be told how much you love this character, how friendly they are, how funny they are. No matter what you tell me, I'm not going to believe it until I see it for myself.
I think it works better when it's like following a proof of something. I think that's more acceptable to me, is they show you the character is amazing, and then one of the other characters just kind of says what you're already thinking. Wow, that was amazing. Whatever, that type of thing.
Yeah, as long as I see it, as
Yeah.
long as I see it with my own eyes, and I'm not just trusting the other characters. A lot of times it's because that character needs that kind of reinforcement, or they're insecure or something along those lines. The worst are the ones where I'm thinking of, we're going to get controversial here, the movie Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
Where she is super powerful and her arc of the story is learning to be more powerful.
I've been fighting with one arm tied behind my back. But what happens when I'm finally set free?
Yeah.
And her best friend tells her, you were always so great, even before you got your superpowers. And a standard human reaction, psychological human reaction, you have a degree in psychology, you can back me up on this,
Yep.
to someone giving you a compliment is thanking them and usually giving them some sort of compliment back or self-deprecating. Oh,
Yeah.
I wasn't that great of a pilot. Oh, I couldn't even pass my flying license test, or, well, I could have improved in this way, or, oh, thanks, you're such a great friend. You've always been so loyal. I've always admired your loyalness. But instead, Captain Marvel goes, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not appealing to many people in the audience.
Yeah, and obviously psychology is not something that's considered when ideology is the driving force behind a story, and how a story is being written and how normal human people react is not considered. I think at worst it makes it, like you were saying earlier, supremely boring.
Yes.
Or I guess at best it makes it supremely boring, and at worst it makes it offensive to watch.
Sure.
Another thing I really like about how the ladies are portrayed in the animes is that although there are feminine females, masculine males, those roles are not ubiquitous in any way, shape, or form. There is plenty of feminine males and masculine females, which we gave some examples of that earlier. And I also like that because of this, because it's not ubiquitous, or because there's no other message behind the storytelling other than just trying to tell creative, good stories, there's no ticking off of boxes. There's no obsessing over, okay, how often do the female characters talk about the male characters? And do they have conversations that aren't about the male characters at least half of the time? Because otherwise it's problematic. So a thing I love about this is you can just tell in the variety of storytelling, and even in the responses from anime and manga creators when they're criticized for any of that crap, that, yeah, they just don't obsess over these things. While over here, they're counting who are the girls talking about in conversations. Are they talking about boys more than girl things? Oh, that's a problem if they are. So I like that that's not an obsession.
You're talking about the Bechdel test?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, they have to have
Well done.
so many women. They have to talk to each other and not just talk to men. And I don't remember them all. But they have to talk to people about stuff that aren't the men.
Yeah. Yep.
Which a lot of that stuff is fair. Like, we're not sitting here saying, like, there aren't movies where this doesn't happen.
Right.
But I would make the argument that those same things happen to men in female-driven movies like Ghostbusters 2016.
Yeah.
The Chris Hemsworth's character, for example. One of the characters I want to talk about, too, since you're talking about this, like, kind of different types of characters. One of the characters that came up on Twitter was Biscuit, or Bisky, from Hunter x Hunter.
Okay.
Who is a very good trainer, strong woman, kind of a standard shape and size for a woman, but then she morphs into like a He-Man, but of women.
Yes.
To be real strong and really train people. Has kind of the same, a strict personality, but not an angry personality. But that's one of those characters that is feminine and masculine kind of all at the same time.
Yeah, her name's Biscuit Kruger.
Yeah, Biscuit Kruger. Bisky, she prefers to be called.
Biscuit Kruger. Yeah, pretty cool character. I think the only example, or the only, not example, the only alternative to this from recent memory is an anime that right now everyone loves to hate, and that's called High Guardian Spice. And High Guardian Spice claim to fame is that they had an all-female writer's room, which is amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. That's great. That's
Sure.
perfect.
Yeah.
The problem is that was it, and they were not experienced in writing anime, and there's not a throughput story in the anime, and the anime has been relegated to obscurity after being dunked on for weeks because there was just this one example where Crunchyroll, before they technically got bought by Funimation, thought, okay, well, this stuff is working in the West, right?
Right.
Throwing this out there that, we don't got to worry about the story. We just got to make sure everyone knows that it was only written by women, and that'll be enough to carry this. And it wasn't, and it failed miserably in the anime fandom. So I think that's a like and a diss. A diss for High Guardian Spice and the angle Crunchyroll went after there, but a huge like that it was completely destroyed by the anime community for not having any substance.
It's very poor writing to start with an agenda. You never go into writing like, I'm going to teach everybody a lesson, unless you're writing like nonfiction history books or textbooks or something like that. But what's always weird about this, and this happened with the Wonder Woman movie, the first one was pretty good. The Captain Marvel, like every time one of these comes out, the Wonder Woman movie, we apparently forget that Wonder Woman's a character was already 70 years old at the time and already had a television series with Linda Carter that was very beloved. We keep acting like it's the first one. And this Spice Girls anime that you were talking about, like Full Metal Alchemist is super popular and was written by and drawn by a woman.
Yeah, and it's top 5 for me. Yeah.
This happens in the comic book industry too, like Anne Vicente and Louise Simonson, and there were all these female editors and writers way back in the day, and it's kind of pushes them aside like they didn't exist and like they didn't do anything because they act like, oh, this is the first time finally. I remember a bunch of people saying that with the Wonder Woman movie, finally a female superhero, and it's like, well, there's already been literally a Wonder Woman television show.
Yeah, definitely not the first. I kind of structured my comments here a little bit intentionally. I wanted to have a bit more of the inflammatory stuff early on.
Okay, so that people are mad and turn it off.
Yeah, that.
Yeah,
and so that they're thinking, oh, well, you just hate women, or, it's degrading to women or something like that. I wanted that to be the thought. And then next I want to talk a little bit about my wife, Jessica. Mm-hmm. So my wife is an Iraq War veteran, and she saw active duty for a couple years right after 9/11, and she was in active duty, and she was also military police. She's very tough. My wife also won't go anywhere without her lipstick. My wife is a director at a major university. My wife is also blonde and, likes to get her hair done and always has her nails polished the same color as said lipstick. So I think the problem I have is when people think that these things have to be done in a vacuum. But my favorite thing, and the reason I bring this up, is because more about something that she says than my thoughts, rather. She gets very angry about a lot of the, girl agenda stuff. And she's like, I never, ever, 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 ever want to get anything just because I'm female or a girl,
right,
or whatever. I would like just to be treated based on my own merit, based on my own ability, based on my own personality. And I think that's, to me, the answer to all of it is I think it should make people angry when things are done just based off of what someone is and not who they are, I guess is the point I'm trying to make
or
here.
their qualifications.
Yeah, exactly.
I doubt there's a human being on the planet that has met your wife Jessica and didn't like her immediately.
Yeah.
She's eminently likable.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Has all that history that's super interesting.
Yeah, yep, yep. And super positive always, super friendly, just amazing. I'm very lucky. And then so I saw a real question posted online, and this was asked like sincerely.
Not ironically.
Yeah. Why are anime girls so hot? Question mark. How can real girls even compete? Question mark.
One of my favorites.
Yeah. So I found this very interesting, and it's not directly related, but this is what got me going down this road of thinking
Sure.
about, my wife and all that kind of stuff. And I liked some of the answers that were given. One, people like attractive people. Merve, you talked about this already.
Yes. Yeah.
And men are drawn to attractive people. It's not a fairness problem because women are drawn to attractive men. So I thought those were good, reasonable answers. My favorite answer, though, no male ever failed to be attracted to a female because of how hot girls are drawn in anime. Does that make sense, what I just said?
It's very logical.
That would make no sense that anyone would ever think, oh man, I can't find anyone because those cartoon characters are just drawn too attractive. So no one will like me.
Well, and this is a big point that is made oftentimes in these kind of arguments. You have these quote unquote unrealistic expectations. Now we've already gone over another one that came up on Twitter, Makoto Masaki, who they call the titular main protagonist of the anime manga series, A Certain Scientific Railgun. And I guess she's titular because Railgun is her nickname.
Okay.
So A Certain Scientific Railgun is her.
Yeah.
But she's a very plain, I mean, they're all, gonna have attractive features, male, female, regardless. But
yeah, we talked about this with Howl's Moving Castle, how like the main girl in that was supposed to be,
like unattractive.
Yeah, and she wasn't at all. Yeah.
And she's embarrassed about her bust size. But she's one of the more popular characters, is the titular character of her own anime manga series. I don't know how popular it is, but you hear this a lot. Oh, it's so tough for the actresses because they airbrush all the photos. So no girl could ever really live up to that standard. And no, they draw these women with these unrealistic proportions. But this is He-Man.
Right.
I'm holding up an action figure of He-Man. It's a modern day action figure based on the retro action figures. But his waist circumference of He-Man is the same as the width of his shoulders.
Yeah.
So if you go around his waist, it's 8 centimeters across his shoulders. It's 8 centimeters.
I think another good way to put it is his waist is just as wide or just as narrow, I guess, as his head.
Yeah, basically.
So his head is just as wide with the hair as his waist in that action figure.
But to put this in perspective, if his waist is an average, let's say 38 inches, because he's a muscular guy, he's not a beanpole. So let's say 38 inches. Then his shoulders are 38 inches wide. A door is usually 32 inches wide. A doorway. An average male has a shoulder width of about 17 or 18 inches. So it's 2.5 times basically the average width of a male shoulder, and we're giving those to little boys and no one cares.
Yeah. And I think that's no one cares. I don't care. I don't look at He-Man and go, oh man, if that's what girls really want, and man, I'm never gonna find anyone, right?
Yeah.
I would never would have gotten in a relationship. That's what I thought. I don't
people
care.
Are always
People don't
shocked. People are always shocked when they meet my wife about how attractive she is.
Yeah, I think that's.
I didn't expect her to be so pretty.
I think
Thanks.
that's a fair statement because I have heard that, and that's good. That's a good thing for you, right?
Yeah.
That's and the fact that she's also a supremely nice person.
Yeah.
But no one cares when it comes to the men and the male characters and all that, and shirts getting ripped off, and no one ever talks about in shoujos or reverse harems how the men are treated as objects or any of that. And no, why can't we just not care in general? I don't get
Right.
it. Like, why does it have to be a thing on the other side? I don't understand. I don't like it. And I'm so grateful anime doesn't seem to care as much either.
Right. And I've heard after the slap heard around the world on the Oscars, they made a bald joke about Jada Pinkett Smith. Chris Rock made a bald joke. I went bald when I was 22 years old. It's not like a day has not gone by that I haven't heard a bald joke from somebody, or I've made one myself to cut off the person at the pass.
Yeah.
I've never hit anybody because of it.
Right.
And no one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares that I hear a bunch of bald jokes all the time. No one cares that I cry myself to sleep at night.
Well done. Man, I think that's about my list.
I got a big one.
Okay.
I still got a couple more. One character I want to talk about is Edward from Cowboy Bebop, who is a very masculine male, but also feminine in terms of the childlike qualities that she exhibits. Even her name is Edward. There's also Roka from Steins Gate, who's trans, and one of the things about her is how beautiful she is. So you have these kind of characters that have masculine qualities, but also feminine qualities, and kind of run a spectrum. So I just wanted to kind of hit the ones people mentioned on Twitter as best I could. But one of the arguments I hear a lot, and this comes from almost every video I watched, and I'm not going to name any of the names because I'm not calling anybody out, because I was just listening to their arguments to see like what people are saying. And what kept coming up, and I've heard this about kind of Western properties like the MCU and Star Wars as well, is it's for boys, but girls like it too. So it should be changed so girls like it.
Wait, what? Say that again?
They say, this is for boys. In the video I watched, the two of them I watched were specifically about shonen.
Okay.
Which is specifically for boys.
Yep.
They say, this is for boys, but girls like it too, so we should have more strong female characters.
Oh, yeah.
Or so it should be changed. If girls like it too, then it doesn't need to be changed, because they like it too.
Right.
If you don't like it, then it needs to be changed, or you need to watch something else. But it can't be both things. You can't say boys like it, but girls like it too, so it should be changed.
So that no one likes it is their goal, right? Is the goal.
Usually what ends up happening is you change it and you lose a big chunk of your fan base, and you don't gather any new.
But then the person that made that video and sends a bunch of tweets, then they get to say, haha, I won, right?
Right.
And the other thing that
there was a good video. Both of the videos I watched were well done, and
sure,
and they were complimentary for a lot of things. Okay. But another one they said was like, oh, this female character is as useless as, and then uses an example of this male character. They become as useless as this male character. Ha ha ha. And I assume that male character is like, that's part of the joke of the show, is that this
like
male character is useless. And so that male character already exists and is useless.
Right.
So the thing is already happening with the male characters.
Yeah. And I think the part I find to be bullshit about that is the statement, there aren't strong female characters in shonen, therefore blah blah. That's nonsense. That's complete nonsense. There is a ton of female-led shonen. There's another one, I wish I could remember the name, but I'm only a couple episodes in, but it's like a top anime on Crunchyroll right now. And you literally take the tropey, I was in the real world and now I'm in a video game world and blah blah blah, and the main character is a girl and it's a shonen. So I think that's BS. And two, that's also why my response wasn't, okay, shonen probably is more male-dominated hero-wise. In fact, it definitely is.
Yeah,
but I don't think the response is we need to change shonen. I think the response is let's get some shoujo.
Yeah.
Let's get some shoujo into the mainstream. I think it's let's take kind of some of those ideas and either make shonen with female leads, I think that's great. Or I'd love to see some shoujo become mainstream. I don't know.
I mean, but not forced into the mainstream. Something
No.
that's good enough to
Yeah.
become mainstream.
Exactly
You
that.
see this in collectible action figures. Is some of the hardest action figures to find if you're trying to collect vintage action figures are the female characters, because no one bought them.
Right.
So Mary Jane is one of the hardest, or Lady J is one of the hardest G.I. Joe figures to find, and Tila is a very hard Master of the Universe, and the Sorceress is super hard
Yeah.
to find because, a lot of these are dominated by boys. But that's not a bad thing.
No,
It can be
no.
it's okay to be for boys.
Yep.
Just like it's okay for My Little Pony to be for girls. Sorry, bronies. It's okay for a majority of Harry Potter fans to be girls.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
It's okay for 50 Shades of Grey to be for girls.
I liked 50 Shades of Grey.
What do they call you then? A grayer?
a
A
grainy,
shader? A shady?
grainy, a shady. Yeah, I think it would be very shady if you.
But yeah, there's nothing wrong with bronies, just like there's nothing wrong with women, girls, females, whatever. I keep struggling with which word to pick.
Yeah, whatever.
Because people get offended.
Yeah.
Even though I shouldn't be caring if people get offended right now.
Right, it's gonna happen. The dam has burst on that.
Yeah, that's
bubble.
true. That's true. But bronies are fine, just like it's okay that girls love shonen.
Sure. Yeah.
Same
I have
thing.
no problem with bronies.
Yeah.
That I know of. I don't
Right.
know any, but
Yeah. Unless they're those psycho ones that you hear about, the murdery ones. Those are
I
the
don't like
worst.
murdery people.
Yeah.
It just in general, I don't care if they're non-bronies. I don't like people who murder other people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not nice.
Here's one last thing that's kind of a diss is redo of Healer we've talked about. And this happens quite a bit and in all these videos, they pulled out specific characters and they were like, well, this character's good, but this character isn't good. And in redo of Healer, the main female, Freya or Setsuna, I can't remember which one's the main female character there, but she is treated poorly. But the worst part about her as a character, as a written character, is that she's just so villainous. She's just completely evil. And it's the opposite of having no flaws. It's having no good traits, having nothing redemptive.
Nothing redeeming.
And it's that's also a boring character. It's a Saturday morning villain that's just out to destroy the world that they live on.
I think the good way to put that is, and you've said this, but being evil just for the sake of being evil versus having some sort of motivation, right?
Sure.
I think it's okay to have a supremely evil character that just is bad.
Right.
But as long as they have a motivation that makes sense, or that I can at least understand, and it's not just I'm bad just to be bad like it is in Redo of Healer, even though it's my number one anime of all time.
I thought it was Bananya.
It changes daily. The joke one is Redo of Healer. The April 1st one is Bananya. The real one right now, Ranking of Kings, for sure.
Yeah, Ranking of Kings.
Anyway, I digress.
But the other thing about that is people are extremely offended by the way women are treated on that show. And I would say reasonable, but also the male lead is treated horrifically. And no one cares about that. No one's like, oh, this poor guy, look at how he's treated. And he's treated pretty awfully.
Yeah, he's treated the worst that you can be. Everything that he does is done to him at least as bad.
Right.
But yeah, that's a good point.
Some might say worse because he's well aware of what's happening at all times.
Yeah, for real.
So I think what we could say in conclusion is the reason anime handles women better than the West is because they let women be characters, have psychological wants and needs, have flaws, be real human beings, and don't try to just make them men, which is the most sexist thing you can do.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm super grateful for how anime portrays girls because it doesn't have to fit in a certain box. And I can see all kinds of different portrayals and all kinds of different anime, from stuff that is offensive but still should be allowed to exist.
Oh, yeah.
All the way to the strongest, most empowering female lead you could ever imagine that has all the powers and all the wisdom and all the everything and everything in between. Likewise, there are male characters in anime that are offensive, supremely offensive, all the way up to, you know, the hero, the wisest hero with all the best powers, all that kind of stuff. It's an equal opportunity medium, entertainment medium, and it's why I'm a huge fan right now. And personally, even when it's not stuff for the show, I find myself going back to anime because we don't have that here right now. It's just sucks right now. Yeah.
It comes down to right now we're just getting the same story over and over in the West.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a boring story.
Yeah.
There's no one trying anything because they're so afraid to get slapped at the Oscars. So no one's trying anything over here.
Yeah. Especially not romantic comedies. Can you think of a romantic comedy that came out recently?
No, I saw a headline about that and I didn't really get it. But yeah, I have not seen. Now, in fairness, rom-coms are probably not I'm not on the cutting edge of what the new rom-com is going to be.
Problem is, everything about it would be problematic if someone actually put one out right now. Typically, there's a lot of jokes around gender roles and all that. I mean, if you think about romantic comedies, everything about it would be problematic in the West right now. So that's why they don't come out.
Yeah, a couple that I remember that I liked, they're probably 10 years old at this point or even older, like Wedding Crashers, I think is hilarious. There was one that came out with Teen Wolf 2 in it a couple years ago called Game Night, and that was very clever and entertaining. I Love You Man, Paul Rudd. It's a good one, but all those that except Game Night's probably the newest, and it's like probably 8 to 10 years old.
Yeah.
Now that you mention it, I guess I didn't even realize that those movies have fallen.
Yeah, they can't make them anymore. They're too problematic. Not allowed
In the West.
In the West.
The best rom-com I've seen in many years is Your Name.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's very, very good. But I don't know, man. That's all I got really to say about this.
I think I got the list.
Yeah.
Got the characters.
But
We were controversial enough.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
I think the edit will come up pretty good.
If you guys can think of anything more controversial that we didn't say, put it down in the comments below.
Or go to Twitter, Anime Shoshin Show at Anime Shoshin
It might
Show.
be Anime Shoshin Pod. I should probably know that.
I thought it was show.
It is, let me get it up here, at Anime Shoshin Pod.
Oh, cool. That's
Okay.
That's great. So say at Anime Shoshin Pod again.
At Anime Shoshin Pod.
All right, I'll see if I can fix that in post. But
That's what we should have named this podcast.
Yeah.
I'll see if Blake can fix it in post.
I mean, look, if we're honest, this conversation was a bit muddled. I'd say a lot of it's my fault. I was struggling to find a little bit of a rhythm today, but I still think it'll edit out okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's structurally it's goofy because we're not talking about anything specific, but
Yeah. But anyway, everyone, thank you so much for listening. If you're not subscribed or following us, please do so. We greatly appreciate it. You can find us on the YouTubes and every podcast platform. And we've got, oh my goodness, we've got some episodes coming up that I'm super excited about. I'm talking like 3.5 foot Taiwanese dolls in one, to some very topical and popular anime going on right now, to some really exciting collaborations. So stay tuned for some very exciting episodes coming very soon. Thank you, and we'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
see ya.
It's over for you. You're done. But you'll be back.